Areas of the boy's midsection, from navel to xiphoid process, at the cleft of his ribs, alone required 19 months of stretching and postural exercises, the more extreme of which must have been wildly painful. At this stage, further advances in flexibility were now so subtle to the point of being undetectable without extremely precise daily record keeping. Certain tensile limits in the flava, capsule, and process ligaments of the neck and upper back were gently but persistently stretched. The boy's chin placed to his chest at the mid-sternum and then slid incrementally down 1, sometimes 1.5 millimeters a day, and this catatonic state and/or meditative posture held for an hour or more. In the summer, during his early morning routines, the tree outside the boy's window became busy with grackles coming and going, and then, as the sun rose, filled with the birds' harsh sounds, tearing sounds, which, as the boy sat cross-legged, with his chin to his chest, sounded through the pane like rusty screws turning, some complexly stuck thing coming loose with a shriek. Past the tree, the foreshortened roofs of the neighborhood homes and the fire hydrant and the street signs of the cross street and of the 48 identical roofs of a housing development beyond the cross street, and past the development, just at the horizon, the edges of the verdant cornfields that began at the city limits. In late summer, the field's green became more sallow, and then in the fall there was merely sad stubble, and in the winter the field's bare earth looked like nothing so much as exactly what it was. A Bengali holy man, known to his followers as Pranasantha II, underwent periods of meditative chanting during which his eyes exited their sockets and ascended to float above his own head, connected only by their dura mater cords, and thereupon the floating eyes performed, rhythmically stylized rotary movements described by Western witnesses as evocative of dancing four-faced Shivas, of charmed snakes, of interwoven genetic helices, of the counterpointed figure-8 orbits of the Milky Way and Andromeda galaxies around each other at the perimeter of the local group, or of all four at once. Nor was it ever established precisely why this boy had devoted himself to the goal of being able to press his lips to every square inch of his own body. It is not even clear that he conceived of the goal as an achievement in any conventional sense, as he had never read Ripley and never heard of McWhorters. Certainly it was no kind of stunt, nor was there any sort of self-evocation. This is verified. The boy had no conscious wish to transcend anything. If someone had asked him, the boy would have said only that he decided he wanted to press his lips to every last micrometer of his own individual body. He would not have been able to say any more than this. Conceits or conceptions of his own physical inaccessibility to himself, as we are all of us inaccessible to ourselves and can, for example, press our lips to one another in ways which we could not even begin to approach, lipwise, on ourselves, or of the boy's complete determination, apparently, to pierce the veil of inaccessibility, to be, in some childish way, self-contained and sufficient, and fully available to himself. All of these thoughts were beyond the range of his own conscious awareness, as he was, after all, a child. His lips touched the upper areolae of his left and right nipples in the autumn of his 9th year. The lips by this time were markedly large and protrusive. Part of his daily discipline was tedious button and string exercises designed to promote hypertrophy of the orbicularis muscles. The ability to extend his pursed lips as much as 10.4 centimeters had often meant the difference between achieving part of the thorax and not. It had also been the orbicularis muscles, more than any outstanding advance in vertebral flexation, that had permitted him to access the rear of his own scrotum and substantial portions of the scrotum around the thighs before he had turned 9. These areas had been tagged on the four-sided chart inside of his own personal ledger, and then washed clean of ink and forgotten. The boy's tendency was to forget each site once he had pressed his lips to it, as if the establishment of its own accessibility made the sight henceforth unreal for him, and the sight now in some sense existed only on the four-faced chart. His mid and upper back were the first areas of radical, perhaps even impossible, unavailability to his own lips, presenting challenges to flexibility and discipline that occupied the vast percentage of his inner life in grades 4 and 5. And beyond, of course, like the falls of a long river's end, lay the unimaginable prospects of achieving the back of his neck, the 8 centimeters just below his chin's point, the galet of his scalp's back and crown, the forehead and the zygomatic ridge, the ears, nose, and eyes, as well as the paradoxical ding-a-sing of his lips themselves, accessing which appeared to be like asking a blade to cut itself. These sights occupied a near mythic place in the overall agenda. The boy revered them in such a way so as to place them almost beyond the range of conscious intent. The boy was not by nature a worrier, but the inaccessibility of these last sights seemed so immense that it was as if their cast shadow fell across all of the slow progress up towards his clavicle, and in the front of the lumbar curvature, and in the rear that occupied his 11th year, darkening the whole endeavor, tenebrous shadows that the boy chose to see as lending to the enterprise's somber dignity rather than futility or pathos. He did not yet know it, but he believed, as he approached pubescence, that his head would be his own. He would find a way to access all of himself, and he possessed nothing that anyone would ever call doubt inside.